You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you, the hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere.
D-Day, June 6, 1944, the biggest and most impressive show of force in human history. This invasion sparked the Allied crusade through Nazi-occupied Europe, which won the freedom for millions. From the Rangers at Point de Hook to the paratroopers behind enemy lines, their efforts helped the Allies get a foothold in France, to which the world has remembered their actions for decades to come. And today, in honour of the 80th anniversary of D-Day, we will be taking a deeper look into the greatest invasion in human history. Joseph Stalin, Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt realised that if the Allies were going to win the war, they needed to open up a second front. With the USSR winning on the Eastern Front, they decided to open up the Western Front by invading Nazi-occupied France in May of 1944. But due to shortage of landing craft, the invasion was rescheduled to June of 1944. Additionally, they needed to decide where the invasion would take place. There were two options, option A being Calais. This is because it was the closest point to England from across the Channel. However, the Germans thought of this, leading to Calais being heavily defended. Option B was Normandy. It was the furthest point from England, leading to it not being as well defended and being a surprise invasion. So the decision was made. Normandy it is. On June 4th, the plan was in motion. Aircraft were ready, troops were on their ships, but all of a sudden a storm rolled in, making it impossible to land. General Dwight D. Eisenhower decided to delay the invasion until weather conditions improved. Command realized that they could not delay any further, as they needed to do the channel crossing at night, along with commando raids and minesweeping. On top of that, troops and equipment were already moving to staging areas, which could only be targeting one place, Normandy. But then RAF meteorologist James Martin Stagg said that the weather will improve on the 6th. And so then 6,000 ships carrying 156,000 men started to make the long, treacherous journey across the Channel towards the Atlantic Wall. In the early morning of June 6th, the airborne operations had already begun. Before that, however, the Pathfinders were deployed. These highly trained paratroopers were tasked with placing beacons to guide the main airborne landings. However, only 3 out of the 4 original planes made it to France. One of them missed their drop, and nearly all the equipment was carried in the one that had to turn back. Out of pure desperation, the remaining Pathfinders shined their flashlights at incoming planes in an attempt to direct them. The airborne landings, however, were a mess. Nearly all planes missed their drop zones due to enemy fire and poor visibility. Many paratroopers were split up from their units. Some landed in ponds or rivers, leading them to drown. Their goal, however, was to disrupt any ways of the Germans getting reinforcements. This meant capturing bridges and taking other strategic points. 2 of the best airborne units, that being the 101st and the 82nd Airborne, were able to complete a majority of their objectives. And at 6:30 AM on June 6th, the main amphibious assault had begun. The Americans were landing on Omaha and Utah beaches. The British were landing on Golden Sword, and the Canadians landing on Juno. And then the landing craft was set off, heading for the designated beaches. Enemy fire crippled some of the craft, sinking them just off of the Normandy coast. Those which do make it drop their ramps and troops charge out with weapons in hand. Utah Beach was the first to be successfully taken with 197 casualties. This is because the troops realized that they had landed on the wrong beach. This, however, was actually a good thing, as the terrain was easier to traverse and it had little resistance. Omaha Beach, however, was the polar opposite. Due to high waves, landing craft were pushed off course and mixed in with other units. Omaha had the strongest defenses. These defenses were supposed to be destroyed by American bombers earlier that day, but nearly all bombs dropped missed their targets. This led to the exposed American troops being torn to pieces by German MG-42 fire. Additionally, all the Sherman DD tanks were destroyed. There were an estimated 2,400 casualties on a beach that was only 6 miles long. But the American troops persevered, and with the help of small Ranger units, they were able to take the beach. The British, however, used more deceiving tactics. They got the film industry to create a whole fake invasion force. This included inflatable tanks, jeeps, aircraft, and even fake radio chatter, anything that could make it more convincing. They placed this fake invasion force across from Calais to deceive the Germans into thinking that that's where they were going to invade. This also led to nearly all the German forces to be brought to Calais and the surrounding area, waiting for an invasion that will never happen. During the British airborne landing, 700 men were sent to capture the Merville gun battery. However, only 150 men were found and took the battery. In the face of terrible odds, the British were successful. At 7:25, the British had arrived at Sword Beach, and mine-sweeping tanks cleared paths for infantry. After the mines were swept, came the other tanks, followed by the infantry. The British were able to take the beach, sustaining 630 casualties. At Gold, the British were able to take the beach with 400 casualties, and at Juno, the Canadians succeeded with 961 casualties. Overall, D-Day was a success. It was the turning point of the war which allowed the Allies to liberate Europe. Millions of people freed from Hitler's oppressing rule. This single operation shaped the future of Europe and the world as we know it. After D-Day came the Battle of Normandy, where the Allied forces pushed their way through the French countryside. And on the 19th of August, the city of Paris was finally liberated. The Allies then continued to push through France, fully liberating it on August 25th of 1944. I hope you guys enjoyed this video about the invasion of Normandy. I'm sorry for the very long wait, but hopefully I'll be able to upload more frequently now. So enjoy this year's 80th anniversary, and goodbye.